Welcome everyone to the sixth class in this study of chapter 1, the Samādhi Pādaḥ, in this expanded Yoga Sutra study series. So this chapter, as I said before, the way this text is written, this chapter is written for advanced students. So it just gives them a glimpse to recap because they're already familiar, and then it builds into the highest states of Samadhi. We'll see the final sutra is about nirbija Samadhi, Samadhi without any seed. And Patanjali gives an overview. So we first saw in the contents, let me go to the contents of this chapter. We saw about the mind and its fluctuations. Patanjali defines yoga because yoga is everything to do with the mind. And then he introduces the nature of yoga practice. It is not just practice, it is also dispassion. And we saw it's a very important term, a concept, because if there is all these samskaras without dispassion, you're craving for things, then it can cause problems. We saw the example of Rishi Saubari, how because of his deep samskaras, he fell off the path. Then Patanjali introduced the two types of samadhis, samprajnata and asamprajnata. Samprajnata is the lower kind, asamprajnata is the higher kind. One using cognition, sam means with, sa usually means with, prajna means wisdom, or here cognition. So with cognition, the mind is thinking about things, and asamprajnata means without any basis. So it's a very high state. Then Patanjali talked about a superpower to get the mind to still, and that is the Ishvara. By contemplating on Ishvara as an object of meditation or an anchor of meditation, the mind can become still. And then we saw exhaustively the obstacles, and now Patanjali is talking about the anchors in meditation. So for the mind to still down, you don't want the mind to keep running away, right? And so Patanjali describes, he gives various types of anchors. The first one we saw was emotional intelligence or emotional stability. What's your attitude towards different people? Okay. Recording. Okay. And Patanjali is going to give many types of anchors. If some of them don't resonate with you, that's totally fine. If you don't even have a clue of what this is about, that's fine. That's why he's giving a variety. And then towards the end, he's going to say, use whatever means possible to still the mind. So he's giving some anchors. The first one is a very common one because people are our biggest reason for the mind to get disheveled. So by having certain attitudes towards people, you can get the mind to still down. And very often for people, when they meditate, then Buddhist meditation, it's called metta, or loving kindness. It comes from the word Maitreya, the Sutra, Maitri, Karuna, Mudito, Pekshanam. That Maitri, it means friendliness. It's in Buddhist terms, it is interpreted as loving kindness. So in meditation, when you think of pouring loving kindness on somebody, can be a child, then the mind becomes still. So this is something which very many people can experience, or somebody, your mother, father, or a very close friend. When you pour certain emotions, certain attitude towards them, then the mind becomes still. So this is one way. Then the second one is very common. So this is the breath. In Sutra 31, Patanjali already established that a distracted mind, vikshepa, he uses the word, is always accompanied by irregular breathing, shwasha prashwasha, because if the breathing is normal, then the mind is agitated. Breathing has to slow down. We saw that in the last class. In the sutra, he is using that connection in reverse. If a disturbed mind disturbs the breath, regulating the breath can possibly regulate the mind, and it happens to be true. It goes two ways. So previous technique was emotional intelligent. Now it is physiological, how to still the mind using a physiological technique. Prachartana vidaranabhyam va pranasya. So these different anchors, these are very popular. It's worth even memorizing, and it's easy to memorize. So prachartana vidaranabhyam va pranasya. Or you can attain stability of the mind by a combination of both a long exhalation and retention. Now, the sutras are very condensed. I've told you it's like a scientific document. So let's look at the word prachardana. Prachardana doesn't mean normal exhalation. It means special exhalation. Specifically implies a force, like your controlled force, a full exhalation. And it doesn't mean like blowing out like that. It means controlled and in a forceful way you exhale. Prachardana vidharana bhyam. Bhyam means both, by a combination of forceful exhalation, and vidharana means retention or holding. By these two together, one can attain stability of mind. Va means or. So the second technique, he gives or to with each technique. So now he is talking about here, prana refers to the breath. The prana in general refers to the vital energy. Now it is the breath. So exhalation, why he's talking about exhalation, there is no mention of inhalation here, if you see. So he's only talking about exhalation, because if you see the mechanism of the autonomous nervous system, the autonomous, and we'll cover that in great detail in the second chapter when we talk about pranayama. But the autonomous nervous system has two parts. One is the sympathetic and the other is the parasympathetic. Exhalation activates the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is flight or fight. It puts the body in alert. The parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest. So inhalation activates the sympathetic mode. Patanjali emphasizes a long, complete exhalation. You're physically forcing the body to down-regulate anxiety. So also exhalation, the physiological effect, exhalation is the act of letting go. By throwing out the air completely, or symbolically and energetically throwing out mental impurities, stressful thoughts, and emotional baggage. And then the most important thing is after that, vidharana, the pause after the exhale. This is the key. After you completely empty the lungs, you hold the breath for a comfortable duration. Later, Patanjali is going to talk about bahya kumbhaka, external retention. So here, he's just giving this as like a hold the breath for some time, not to the point that you're straining, just a little bit, because when Patanjali will later say, when the breath is held, the mind is also silent. There's no activity there. So you just sink into the void. Okay. Now, Patanjali is not teaching the full pranayama here. That is offered in the second chapter. So Patanjali is giving an emergency circuit breaker in case all this mind gets very turbulent. He's giving an emergency circuit breaker to stop it by using the breath. That's all he's doing. Okay. Now, if you see how the different topics the sutras cover, there are, and yoga commonly has attained the connotation of physical postures. That's when we say yoga in the last 50 years, it has come to be associated with physical postures. But before that, when people say yoga, yogi, it refers to somebody who has the mind under control, somebody with great powers over their prana and things like that. That is the image that would come to people's mind. So there are only 3 sutras on asana, which is 1.5%, because there are about 196 sutras. So about 1.5% of the Yoga Sutras is on asanas. As opposed to now, when you say yoga, 100% people think it's asanas. Pranayama has 6 sutras, 1 here and 5 in the second chapter. So 3%. Ishvara has 7. We saw 7 sutras, plus 1. Ishvara pranidhanatva samadhi siddhi ishvara pranidhanat. So about 3.5%. Yamas and niyamas, the foundation, which we'll see, about 8%. Meditation, close to 40%. Others, purusha, prakriti, or karma, all those things, about 45%. So this is how the whole Yoga Sutras are characterized. And Patanjali also says, if the pranayama, later he'll say, is practiced without deep meditation, you're just mechanically doing exhale, inhale with a certain force, then the mind, instead of getting calm, would get disturbed. And if you're thinking of other thoughts, so pranayama has to be practiced with some focus. Mind should be made one pointed with a particular thought with every inhalation, then exhalation you let go. So exhalation, just to summarize everything, is letting go. And during exhalation, you can imagine a void and emptying the mind of all thoughts. 3 important points: slow exhalation, body. Later, Patanjali will say, Dhirga Sukshmaha. It's long and subtle. Slow, long exhalation, and body still and relaxed. So forceful here doesn't mean pumping out. There are also pranayama techniques which do that, but here it is a matter of not just letting the body breathe by itself, gently, forcefully exhaling the air at a certain rate. Body has to be still and relaxed. Keep the mind vacant without any thought during exhalation. Okay. And during inhalation, he hasn't said that here, but some the commentators add, the mind has to be made one pointed with a particular thought. It can be like I disentangling from the body. This is only possible during the exhalation. During inhalation, because it activates the sympathetic nervous system, instead of going haywire, just focus it on a certain thought. Okay. Now the next anchor. So we've seen 2 anchors. Now comes the third anchor. The third anchor is about supersensory experience. Okay, what is the supersensory experience? We'll see. Vishayavati va pravrittirutpanna manasah sthiti nibandhini. So again, there's a va, or. So he's giving all the options. He's not saying you have to perfect every one of this. Remember, tat pratishedartam ekatattvabhyasah, to still the mind, that pratishedartam, for to conquer all these maladies of the mind. Ekatattvabhyasah, one principle, use one principle. So he's giving options. So if some of them don't resonate with you, that's totally fine. And that's how our minds are made of. Vishayavati means related to sense objects, possessed of sense perception. It is not actual sense objects, but it just resembles sense objects. Vishayavati va pravritti utpanna. Pravritti means going towards manifestation. Pravritti and nivritti. Pravritti means projecting, and nivritti means just taking in. Here, pravritti has the notion of manifestation. So, this Vishayavati, that something that looks like the sense objects, a smell, a taste in your tongue, they can manifest, utpanna, arise. pravritti projected forth and arising in the mind, and that stabilizes the mind. And Patanjali's the commentators will give different techniques to bring that. So when you focus on the tip of the tongue, then a certain taste comes, or on the soft exhalation at tip of the nose, you feel the breath. Over time, you may, from your subconscious, certain smells that you like may come, and that stabilizes the mind. Okay, so look at what he's saying. If he's not saying daydream about your favorite food, he says make it in a subtle way that things come from your subconscious. You're not letting the mind run haywire, but when you do things in a certain way, and the commentators are going to say how, then your mind becomes stable. Sthiti nibandini. Sthiti means steadiness. Nibandini, bandha means bind. So the mind is bound in stability. So Vyāsa gives some examples. Focusing the mind on specific physical locations in the body associated with the 5 senses. Here, these are the subtle senses. Tan, tat, tat matra. Tan matra is the word that is used until the subtle aspect of that sense manifests. So there is no smell, but the subtle aspect manifests and your mind registers a smell. So for smell, tip of the nose. For taste, tip of the tongue. Gandha, smell. Rasa, taste. Rupa, the sight, for certain vision to come, something that stabilizes the mind. There are 2 techniques. One is the palate, and the other is the Agnya Chakra, third eye. Then touch, sparsha, heart center. Sound, shabda, root of the tongue, way back, or the ears. By concentrating, for example, intensely on the tip of the nose, nasika agra, that is the tip of the nose. Nasika is the nose. Agra means at the corner end. The yogi eventually experiences a divine fragrance that is not of this world. By concentrating on the tip of the tongue, one experiences a divine taste, often described as nectar-like, even though you've not eaten anything. So, and by concentrating on the roof of the mouth, or the space between the eyebrows, one sees divine light, shining forms, luminous dots, all these. Or by concentrating on the Anahata Chakra, then one feels velvety sensations of moving prana, or a feeling of expansive warmth. In fact, this a lot of people can relate to. When in meditation you focus on the chest moving, and this a certain warmth feeling, you kind of get in touch with the prana, and that can make the mind calm. So these are all ways to stabilize the mind from a state where the mind is chaotic. And then by concentrating on the root of the tongue or the deep within the ears, one hears the internal sounds. This sound is called nada. It ranges from buzzing bees to bells to conch shells or distant oceans. So in a conch shell, if you put it on your ear and listen, it looks like this, like ocean sound. From far away, you can hear the ocean, right? Sometimes that is the sound you get in a conch shell. Okay, so why is another reason why Patanjali tells all this is, in meditation, in yoga, you are going from the external body, that is the sthula shariram, the physical or the gross body, to the sukshma shariram, the subtle body. By nature, something that is subtle is not manifest. How do you know these things are true? You have a doubt. I'm doing all this yoga. How is my mind able to get peace? So when you start noticing these things, following the technique, that kills the doubt. Ultimate goal is killing the doubt. So the goal is to destroy the obstacle of doubt, samshaya. Vyāsa explains, many students practice yoga based on faith in the scriptures or their teachers, but deep down, a nagging doubt remains. Is this real? Is there anything beyond the physical body? And when the yogi successfully performs one of these practices and experiences a divine smell or internal light, for the first time, they know with absolute certainty that it did not come from outside. So they have direct first-hand proof that the mind has powers beyond the physical senses. Okay, doubt is thus dispelled. That is one of the goals of this kind of practice. Okay, now we will go into a very important topic. This is the fourth anchor. So far the three anchors, are they clear? Even though you may not be able to relate to all of them, but yeah. Now the mind's intrinsic luminosity, this has a great amount of symbolism. So it talks about the intrinsic nature of the mind, which is luminosity and clarity as the object of focus. In this technique, the senses are completely bypassed and it goes straight to the source of awareness. So straight to the Purusha. How do we do that? Let's see. Vishoka va jyotishmati. Va means the or again. Or by the focus on the sorrow-free, effulgent light within. Okay. Vishoka. Shoka means sadness. Sukha is happiness. Shoka means sorrow or sadness or pain. Jyotishmati means the Mati. Jyoti means light. Mati is the mind. So luminosity of the mind, or by the focus on the sorrow-free, effulgent light within. Look at what the word he is using. Sorrow-free. Vishoka. Does anybody want to know what Patanjali is referring to and why he's using the word? It just doesn't say Jyotishmati. It says Vishoka Jyotishmati. Anybody wants to say? Why is he using the word Vishoka without sorrow? Is emphasizing that. Anu, Amy, Sumitra?
Probably because Shokam is a sign of Tamasana. It reflects darkness. That is my assumption. You feel constricted, right?
Yes.
Kam means space. Shokam means like probably you feel constricted, restricted. But light is something which is like, it expands. Maybe because of that.
Yeah, Dukkham is exactly that. Dukkha means constrained space. So here, what Patanjali is referring to the consciousness, the Purusha. What is the nature of you, the true you? Your clothes may look dirty, but you are your clothes may look ragged, all that, but you can be clean and everything. Clothes may be dirty, but you can be clean, right? Some people are like, some people wear fancy clothes, but they don't keep their mind and the body clean. Others wear simple, sometimes even ragged clothes which are not shining, but they are very clean about their health, everything. Your true nature is what? What's your true nature?
Sat, Chit, Ananda.
Yes, you got it, Amy. Yes. Sat, Chit, and what's the third word? Ananda.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So it is, the Patanjali remains, that's your true nature. It is Vishokam. It is devoid of sorrow. So Patanjali is now giving a technique to focus on your true nature. But this is the thing. The true nature, what's the true nature of you is it is incomprehensible. By definition, your true nature, the Atma, is incomprehensible. One of the five, Atma has no property. So even the five, what they call, it's not properties, the aspects, and it doesn't even have an aspect, but the five things that are told about the Atma or the Purusha, it is that which cannot be comprehended. And it's eternal, all-pervading, changeless. It is non-doer of actions, all that. But the first thing is, it cannot be comprehended. So, that being so, it's very difficult to comprehend. But in Vedanta and in yoga, usually the term, the aspect that is used to visualize that is light. So, and what this is referring to is an aspect called nididhyasanam, which we've seen for people who study the Vedanta scriptures. This meditation on the nature of the real I is called nididhyasanam. Because it is incomprehensible, we give it some aspect. The Atma is like the light. Light reveals whatever it shines on. And light, they say, light also means something that's not heavy. So it is devoid of heavy, the sorrow and all that is heavy, right? It's why it's called Gahanam, very heavy. But this Atma, it makes you feel light, and it also sheds awareness. So this light is very often used in yoga and Vedanta to meditate on your true nature, the Purusha. And the mind that is engrossed in the thought of the pure I sense appears like a waveless ocean, placid and limitless. And the experience is described as free from sorrow. It is, you feel a sense of lightness. The feeling is so nice, and the mind starts to, it wants to remain in that state. It is described as radiant or effulgent because on the account of the sattvic enlightenment, there's abundant of knowledge. You'll feel things become very clear when you're in that state. Everything is so obvious. It sometimes happens in meditation when the mind becomes quiet. You get all these flashes of light. This is clear. So it is not optical light, but eventually you're using this optical light to get to that stage of lightness. That which manifest things that are subtle and covered from view or situated at a distance. That's how Vyāsa explains it. So, to summarize everything, meditation on the inner light of consciousness. This is the concept. How we do that, Vyāsa is going to say. Or I think Vachaspati Mishra will say. In yoga, the mind in its purest state is made of sattva, the quality of clarity, illumination, and tranquility. Normally, this light is covered by the dust of our thoughts, worries, and desires. Desires are rajasic, worries, they're tamasic, as Sumitra said. Patanjali says, locate that underlying luminosity of your own awareness and focus on it, and your mind will become steady. Okay, but when we start meditating, we don't see the light, we only see the dust clouds. All the rajas and tamas, they come in. It's either passion or sorrow and tiredness, all those come in. So Patanjali, our Vyāsa, or Vachaspati Mishra, they give a method to do that. So meditation on the inner light of consciousness. Also, remember the example that we used in the beginning. The mind, it's like a movie theater. And from the corner, there's this light coming in. So that light, the projector lamp, that is like the Purusha. Worldly happiness is always tinged with fear of losing it. So it carries this sorrow. But the pure light of the Atman is inherently beyond sorrow. It is not touched by all those things that are going on the movie screen. It is untouched by worldly drama. It's like that. So our life is also like that. We are going through sorrow, all that, but the Purusha is not touched. Just like the movie theater contents, they may affect other people, but this light just projects. So the technique which has been given is meditate on the Anahata Chakra. So the technique, full technique, there is visualize a lotus in the heart, visualize an effulgent light in the center of the lotus, and you can choose whether you visualize the sun or a lamp in a windless place or a brilliant jewel, the light from a brilliant jewel, all those things, and that will make the mind quieten down, and you will get into the sattvic state, which is the closest to your consciousness. Okay, now in the previous sutras, we have seen actually if I go to 70, let's say 71, yeah. Remember, vitarka, vichara, ananda, asmita, the pure I sense, that is the sampragnata samadhi. He says remember the gross perceptibles, subtle perceptibles, that is, you see a red flower, you visualize it, that's the gross perceptible. Then you go on to the subtle perceptible, which is the smell of the flower. Then ananda, blissful feelings, is one thing to meditate on. And asmita, the pure I sense. And that pure I sense is what Patanjali is talking about. So he is talking about the pure I sense, sa ananda and sa asmita. It is stripped of all feelings. So there is only, it is serene, luminous awareness of being remains. And it's difficult to get to that state right away. But when you start visualizing the light slowly by slowly, you get into the final state. The final state, you're not visualizing the light, but you are there in your own serene, luminous awareness. After it, and you have to go through the stages, and finally you come to that. And the Buddha describes this. After this rapture, everything quietens down, and you're in your own true, you're closest to your true nature. Okay. So this is the meditation on the inner light of consciousness. So stabilizing the mind with the help of the awareness of asmita in the form of radiance. Initially, you view the light, and you may have to stay with that for some time. The light still is the anchor, and you are going to your true nature. Now, I wanted to introduce this term. We've talked about it before. When I introduced the mind, I wanted to introduce the term, the reflected consciousness, because later also Patanjali will allude to that. Now, the question is, so I told there is Purusha, that is like the movie theater light. There is Prakriti, everything that is inert, including the mind. How do these two interact? That's the question. And it interacts through the reflection or the projection of the light on the movie theater screen. Many examples are given. Now, you have to also know all these analogies, at some point they break down, because these are all subtle topics. Subtle things cannot be described. There are no ways to exactly tell them. So we give analogies, but take them all with a pinch of salt. Okay? The consciousness we are experiencing is not a pure consciousness. It is a reflection in the mind. It is qualified by the nature of the mind. Okay? Example is a mirror. And if the mirror is concave, the small pawn, it looks big. So it's the quality of the mind changes what's there. But this is the reflection. So we are only looking at the reflected consciousness. That is what is being seen. And the whole idea when the mind becomes quiet and quiet and quiet, it becomes like a flat mirror, blemishless mirror, then you get close to the essence of your true nature. Okay? When there is a face, so when there's a face and a mirror, there's bound to be a reflection. So the face is like the original consciousness, the mirror is like the mind. Or the mirror is like the ego. First, the ego catches the reflected consciousness, transmits it to the rest of the mind, The mind transmits it to the sense organs transmit it to the rest of the body. The reflected consciousness, the ego or the false I, is related to the body by karmajam. The body is due to karmas, and the reflected consciousness by sahajam. So when there is the ego and the consciousness, there is a reflection. And to the original consciousness by prāṇtijanyam. It has nothing to the ego, the false I. Your notion of I as man, woman, teacher, mother, father is not your real you. That's why the ego, the false I, is related to the original I through prāṇtijanyam, error. It's an error because that's your true nature. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that. Is that point clear? It's not very useful in this, but later in the 4th chapter, you will get to know. And constantly I keep saying you are the pure thing. Then you're asking, why do I feel bad? The question can come, right? That's why I'm saying. Lena, you have a question? I can't hear you, Lena. Okay. All right. So if you have a question here, let me know. So this is the reflected consciousness. Okay, Lena, you wanted to say something? I can't hear you. Others, can somebody talk? Because I can't hear Lena. I just want to make sure microphone is working. Amy?
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
can't
can
hear
hear
Lena
you.
either. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So Lena, maybe at the end of the class, we can discuss. So the consciousness is likened to the electricity. Again, I'm giving analogies for you to visualize. We saw the movie theater example. The classic example in yoga is the movie theater example. Then another example is think of the grid. Consciousness is all pervading, 115,000 volts. Then there's a transformer, and you create 120 volts, and then we have this adapters charging our phones, 5 volts. So 115,000 volts to 120 volts, then 120 volts to 5 volts. So the all pervading consciousness in the universe is like that. It's like this universe here. Then the consciousness, it goes, the ego, false I, traps it and sends it to the mind. So the mind gives it to the senses to the body. That's how the whole thing comes alive. But it's just one consciousness which is unblemished. Okay, summary of anchors so far. Calm the mind socially, attitudes towards people. Calm the mind physiologically, breath regulation. Calm the mind using the subtle senses. Calm the mind using the mind's own pure nature, inner sorrowless light. Okay, then another one. Vitaraga vishayam va chittam va, or vitaraga vishayam, or by contemplating the mind. This he just says chittam, this is the mind. It here refers to the mind of somebody else that is free of hankering to sense objects. Vitaraga vishayam means objects. The mind, raga means craving. Vitaraga means without craving to the sense objects, free of hankering to the sense objects. If a yogi meditates on a dispassionate mind of some great person, the yogi also attains stability of the mind. Mind full of passion or desires finds it easy to think of sense objects, therefore it's difficult to get into a carefree, centered state. Whereas a mind which is free from passion finds it easy to be unattached and free. There's a beautiful story in the Bhagavatam. I'll probably tell it in another class, because today I wanted to finish this topic and address 2 more things. But this is about Avaduta. So this king once sees a sannyasi, a monk. And the monk is his just ragged clothes, just no possessions, literally, very happy. So his face is just shining. is radiant. So the king is full of sorrows, how all weighed down by the pressures of governing the kingdom, just like any CEO or president. He comes and asks this person, how is your mind, how is your face glowing? Who are your teachers? Then the Avaduta says, oh, anybody can be the teacher. He tells, I had 25 teachers. So he talks about the some animals, then objects in nature, and you give various categories. Finally, he says, my body is also my teacher, because I know my body wants to be pampered. It tries to deceive me. So I learned how all it can trick you, and it is my teacher. By listening to this, I know that my own true nature is sorrow free. So that is, yeah, anchoring mind. So when you think I'm this king, by listening to this person, his mind calms down. So when we think of worldly objects, we like, the emotion is attachment, which also creates agitation because there is a fear of loss or desire for more. When we think of a sage who's without vitaraga, without this hankering, we do not want to possess them. We feel a sense of reverence, shraddha, for their state of being. So when people worship such a person, it is not the person, it is that state that they are worshipping. How wonderful this person is who wants nothing, how calm is their mind, untouched by greed or anger. It creates a sympathetic vibration in our minds, and this feeling of detached reverence is inherently calming. Because when you think of when craving arises, all these things are churned up. It's like stirring up the dust. When that goes down, when you focus on such a mind, you naturally become calm. Okay. So this is clear, hopefully. Then comes the next one. Swapna nidra jnana lambanam va. Again, va, which means or. This is a very confused, misinterpreted sutra. And it's very cryptic. So it needs some good explanation. Swapna, nidra, jnana, alambana. Alambana means anchor. So all these are anchors during meditation. Swapna is dreams. Nidra here refers to deep sleep. So you can either sleep, so waking, or you can become like between waking and dreams, and then you go into REM state, the dream state, and then finally deep sleep. Deep sleep is called Shushupti. So Nidra, by Nidra here, Patanjali is referring to the deep sleep state. Okay. Vyāsa, what's he saying? Sleep is saying. So people can think, Vyāsa is Patanjali is telling people to sleep more. No. Vyāsa is careful to note that Patanjali is not suggesting one should sleep more to calm the mind. That sleep is also good. We need sleep. The key is using the insight of experience gained in those states as an anchor for meditation during the waking state. Okay. Let's look at dream first. One misinterpretation that you find in books is they say it's lucid dreaming. No, lucid dreaming is a different technique where you are aware, you're watching your own dream. So it's like a state where you're dreaming, at the same time you are actively perceiving the dream. And there are actually supplements which put you in that state, apparently. So that is lucid dreaming. This is not lucid dream. This is knowledge from the dream, swapna. It does not refer to a typical chaotic, anxious dreams born of stress, which are just expressions of daytime samskaras. This refers to a rare dream, which is sattvic or spiritual, pure, clear, and peaceful. Sattvic means full of sattva guna, pure, clear, and peaceful. Sometimes a practitioner may have an intensely vivid dream of a deity, a sage, a sacred symbol, or a profound feeling of peace. Upon waking, the memory of the dream is compelling and vivid. And it tells the yogi to meditate on the memory of that kind of a dream. And so this comes from sattvic sleep, the sleep on awakening, from which you feel calm and relaxed. Because they carry such a strong emotional charge, this mind naturally wants to stick to them, because you found so much peace, happiness, mind wants to be associated with that. So use that as an anchor, Patanjali says. Mind rests on the memory of it without much struggle, quieting external distractions. So that is the dream part, swapna part. Now we'll come to the nidra. Question you will ask is, in deep sleep, I am not aware of anything. How can you say use that as an experience? Here we know may see some divine deity telling you, do that, something like that. Then you realize, this is my passion. I should henceforth pursue that. So in dreams, yes. But deep sleep, what can you? Yes, because nothing is there in deep sleep. So Vyāsa explains, when you wake up after a truly restful sleep, deep sleep, you have a distinct experience. You say, I slept wonderfully. My mind was completely peaceful and blank. So deep sleep is not a lack of experience. It is the mind looking at a blank screen. We've seen that in other courses. If you truly experience nothing, your total non-existence, then you will not be able to remember it upon waking. The fact that you wake up with a memory of peaceful nothingness proves that a part of your consciousness was present to witness that blankness. Do you see that difference? It's a very subtle point. It's emphasized very, very much in Vedanta and in yoga. Even during deep sleep, the Purusha is never switched up. It is always watching, and it's watching the blank mind. It's just the empty screen. We've seen that for those who attended the Atma Bodha and the Dakshinamurti Stotram, we've seen that Shankaracharya uses that to debate and argue over the Shunyavadis. The Shunyavadi form of Buddhism is very close to yoga and Vedanta, very close. But the only thing they say is, in yoga and Vedanta, there's the Purusha, the consciousness. These people say they're exactly almost the same. They say that the inherent nature of everything is void. And how do they say? Anything that you see object is not you, the subject-object difference. Anything that is an object to you is not you. And in deep sleep, there's nothing. So you are experiencing nothing. So your true nature is shunya, nothing. So there is no content to that. So there is just the mind. And then Shankaracharya refutes, saying, no. The fact that you've slept well means you're experiencing just a blank screen. The experience was still on. So that is the nature of the deep sleep. So in deep sleep, the ego, thoughts, worries, sensory inputs are all temporarily suspended. The mind rests in its causal state of potential, undifferentiated peace. This is called closest to experiencing the Karana Shariram. Remember the three bodies we talked about. The physical body, Stula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, consisting of the mind and the prāṇa, the sense, cognition of the senses. And then there is the Karana Shariram, the causal state, where when upon pralayam, when the whole cosmos, everything goes into the unmanifested state, this is how all your karma, everything remains as the causal body. And that's why they say ignorance is bliss. Also deep sleep is bliss, because it is closest to experiencing the Karana Sharira. It's in deep sleep. So the technique is in meditation, you take this unique and peaceful and empty quality of deep sleep. You slept well. Now you just relish in that joy of this good sleep, and you meditate on the stillness and the formlessness that you know from your own experience of a deep sleep. And it's a very subtle practice. You're not trying to fall asleep, but you're trying to bring the peace of deep sleep into your waking awareness. Okay. Yes, Sumitra.
Anna, is it something like Yoga Nidra or something?
So it is, the commentators have not mentioned Yoga Nidra here. So it's a very good question. Yoga Nidra is specifically paying attention to different parts of the body, right? So even Yoga Nidra, there are different interpretations of what Yoga Nidra is. Here, this is literally taking that sense of emptiness from deep sleep. Yes, Sumitra.
One thing is taking your awareness to different parts of the body.
Yeah.
But in my experience, when my father has led, there were times that while doing Yoga Nidra, I kind of almost fall asleep. In the
Yes.
sense, you just feel so relaxed that you're completely empty. And but then I don't remember anything that has happened when I come back. I feel completely relaxed. So my question is, how can you meditate upon deep sleep? Is
Yes.
it like recalling that feeling while you
Yes,
meditate?
that is it. Yes, that's what the commentators say. Recalling that feeling of bliss. So the mind always wants to go towards things that are blissful. If you see all these anchors, Patanjali is trying to tell you, okay, get on to this blissful feeling, not a blissful feeling of eating chocolate or which will throw you out, but on a subtle blissful feeling. Yes, Amy.
But where is that feeling like stored in your body or your mind?
It's in your subconscious. So where is it stored? So it's just anytime even though there are no thoughts, the screen is absent, this entire feeling, the purusha, it's watching, and that gets registered in remember the who's the knower, we've seen that in Atma Bodha. It gets registered in the mind. Let's see.
Like I was thinking of the three parts of the body, and
Yeah.
we were describing it as a feeling, which made me
Yes.
wonder
Yeah.
if it was stored in like the Sukshma Shariram. But
Yes, it is stored in the Sukshma Shariram as the
Mm.
mind. It's stored in the Sukshma Shariram as in the mind of the body. That's where
Interesting.
it is stored. Yes. Yeah.
Got
we've
it. Thanks.
Seen
Yeah.
that, seen that in the Atma Bodha. Okay. So deep sleep is stored indeed in the Sukshma Shariram. The knower, so just since you asked this question, we will see that in the 4th chapter of the Yoga Sutras, who is the knower? So the knower is not the Purusha. Purusha doesn't change. So the knower, this whole thing happens with the mind. So its mind is the instrument. And through that, it knows consciousness, just sheds consciousness on everything. But to understand and store it in a certain way, you need the instrument of mind. And that's why I've always given the example of the apple sorting machine example. If for those who remember, I'm trying to get the picture, apple sorting machine. Yeah. So you see the apple sorting machine. How does it? The electricity is like you, the consciousness. The apple sorting machine, it learns to sort good apple, bad apple, all that, right? Now that knowledge is not stored in the electricity, it's stored in the hardware of the machine. Like that, the hardware here, no, it's not just the physical hardware, it's also the subtle hardware. So that's where the whole thing is stored. Okay, very good questions. All right, so 39. One, a famous story of how a great person who realized this is the story of Saint Tyagaraja. So for those who are familiar with Carnatic music, he is one of the trinities, they call. So he's one of the three. He was just divine. his compositions were all towards Lord Rama, and he sang some of the most beautiful songs, like unparalleled in beauty, and just listening to those songs. Oops, yeah, I don't know what happened to my presentation. It seemed to have vanished. Okay, let me start. Give me a second. Okay, all right. So he was one of these saints, and as a young man, he was intensely devoted to Rama, God Rama, and he was desperate for a spiritual initiation. He was constantly agitated because he could not find a guru who could initiate him, who somebody who he could resonate with, and who could give the sacred mantra, something that he can use to unlock his spiritual potential. He prayed fiercely. His mind was restless with longing. Then one night, during the period of intense yearning, he had a vivid, luminous dream. In the dream, Narada, sage Narada, came and appeared before him, and Narada shone with brilliance, and he held his divine instrument, the veena. Narada was shown carrying a veena, and Narada smiled at Tyagaraja and initiated him, putting the potent Ramatarka mantra in his ear. And he also gave Tyagaraja a sacred text. It's called Swaranava, holding the secrets of divine music. That's why Tyagaraja's compositions are like very divine, very it just melts the heart, they say. And Tyagaraja woke up electrified. The dream was more real to him than a waking world, and his agitation was gone. He took the dream experience, the vision of Narada, and he meditated constantly on the dream revelation, and by anchoring his mind on that, he was able to produce all these hymns. He went to this composed many divine songs. He's well noted for this, living a life of unshakable peace because of this. So that is the story of Saint Tyagaraja. And finally, Patanjali says, Yatapi matadhyanatva, or by contemplating on whatever agreeable means possible, bring the mind to focus. Yata means whatever. Abhimata, that is desirable, agreeable to you. Dhyanatva, by meditating on anything that is desirable and agreeable, bring the mind to focus. Okay. So the summary of anchors: social, attitude towards people; physiological, by breath regulation, using the subtle senses, inner smell, etc. Then sight, all that. Then the calm the mind using the mind's own pure luminous nature, the inner sorrowless light. Then calm the mind psychologically. Previously it was physiological, now psychological, by modeling after a mind free from attachment. Calm the mind using a subconscious state, anchoring to knowledge from dream or deep sleep, and calm the mind through any method of your choice. Okay. And what happens once you done all this, after training the mind? Patanjali will cover one more sutra and we'll stop. Says the mind becomes elastic. How elastic would it be? Paramanu parama mahatvantosya vashikaraha. Gradually, the mind attains the stability in meditation on the minutest atom up to the entirety of the universe. So the words, they are very potent here. Parama anu means like the smallest atom. Even though he uses the parama means big, but here parama anu means the minutest. It's used in superlative, the minutest thing, atom. Parama mahatva, the mahat tattvam, is something which requires a little more explanation. So Parama Mahat Antaha, up to the Antaha means from the minutest atom up to the principle of the entire universe. Mahatvam means great, the great principle or the first manifestation of the primordial energy Prakriti, essentially representing the cosmic intelligence that initiates the process of creation, acting as a bridge between pure consciousness and the material world. The mind attains a stability. We can't think of something which is minute. We can't even visualize the universe. So the mind attains a stability to do both. I think we are at time. Yes. Okay. So let's stop here because this I have to go deep into this sutra, and we'll continue in the next class.